Welcome to part two with
Yes.
Scott Heath and the Veterans Club. We're talking about a wounded veteran that was in Scott and his club, I think it's fair to say, opinion, that was wrongfully convicted of receiving funds. Tell the start of that again, if you would.
Okay, so Jeremy,
I mean, what did they say he did?
well, he was 70% disabled. So
Yes.
as a disabled
with a brain injury.
with a brain injury,
Yeah.
Did the VA agree to that?
the VA diagnosed him with that. Multiple doctors diagnosed him with that, and the federal government gave him this rating, 70%. So he
Okay.
gets a disability check, just like a lot of veterans do. They get a
Right.
disability check every month. When I first met him, I'm thinking, okay, why is this guy out here doing all this work for other people? Okay, why don't you just sit home, play your video games,
Collect
drink
your check.
bourbon, collect your check, okay, hang out with your wife? But no, my opinion was this was his paycheck, and he was earning his money.
Okay.
Okay. In addition to his disability, he got what's called an employability insurance, which made him 100% disabled, which made it even a bigger check every month. Okay. But he was fired from jobs, and his employers told him, you're not employable. The VA, through diagnosis and meetings, determined that he was unemployable, and they had to check up on him. Okay. If the VA had ever at any one point thought that he was employable, he could have worked at Walmart for 20 hours a week and we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Right.
He volunteered for an organization he created 20 hours a week, 40 hours a week, 10 hours a week, whatever. You have to report that on the nonprofit tax returns of all the people that donate time and volunteer. So you have to be truthful, which they were. The federal government looked at that and said, well, if you can volunteer 40 hours a week for this organization, you can hold a job, and we're going to take that away from you. Now, they should have administratively, in my opinion, because they would have done this with anybody else, contacted him and said, we need to review your unemployability insurance. Come in, we'll do these documents, which they may have done. I don't know that for a fact. But instead of doing that, they just went after him and made him a felon.
Wow.
So instead of administratively doing it like
So
they
yeah, we're
would
not
have
going to do
anybody
this
else.
anymore. We don't think you're eligible, and we're going to remove your benefits. But instead, they said, so the benefits that he received, they convicted him for taking that money.
Right. It was found out that there were 2 or more jurors that found him guilty that thought he took money from the organization.
Oh no.
That's why they convicted him.
Wow.
Because they thought that he took
frightening.
money from Veterans Club.
Right.
They did a forensic analysis of Veterans Club. Of course, we have to, the Veterans Club has to file tax returns, and Jeremy got no salary from that organization. Not a penny.
So he never.
But there were 2 jurors, at least 2 that we know of, that stated that they found him guilty because he took money from Veterans Club,
Which he did not do.
which he did not.
You know, it's an easy association to do because we hear about this from time to time. And you're here, a very well-rounded human being, educated, responsible for a lot of people in the things that you do. And you're saying something's not right here. Not more than that something. None of this is right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's other veteran organizations in the state of Kentucky where the people that were in charge did take money.
Right.
And
It
luckily,
probably happens every day.
what happens?
To a lot of different groups.
Luckily,
Firefighters,
They-
I mean,
police
yeah.
organizations,
well,
that
right, yeah, other
Yeah.
organizations, right? Not just nonprofits, but luckily that organization got rid of those people and then turned it around, and now it's back to being a successful organization helping people.
I
You know,
think
Veterans Club was created to fill some niches, and not be the end all be all. There's other organizations that provide dogs. There's organizations that provide job placement, things like that. Veterans Club tried to partner with all those groups because maybe horses are not
that's
your
what they
thing,
do. Yeah.
but maybe dogs are your thing. We didn't want to do dogs. There's other organizations that already established to do that. So some of those organizations distance themselves from Veterans Club
Of course they did. Yeah. Because
because
this is a black eye on.
You know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to think of is, at what point did the trigger flip? I mean, if you're looking at a piece of paper and somebody's volunteering 40 hours, I mean, you can't immediately draw the conclusion that, oh, he's unemployable and he's not working and we're paying him, so therefore we're going to go after him in a criminal way. Does that make any sense?
It doesn't make any sense.
So how did they? Where did the leap come from? He's volunteering and he's unemployable, and the doctor said he's. I didn't say it. You didn't say it. The doctor said, as I understand, that he is unemployable and has a traumatic brain injury from being blown up in a Humvee
Right.
in Iraq, and all of a sudden they say, well, he should be working, and right.
When I
I
first
mean, that's what they said.
when I first met Jeremy, and we had our first equine session, do you think that that 12 men or women would show up at the farm expecting to play with horses, to see the leader of the organization, Jeremy, who's going to lead us in prayer, who's going to lead us in the day? I'm going to support him. Do you think that they showed up to want to see him stand around kicking rocks and with his head down and a tear in his eye, or mad at the world or whatever? No, he had to put on this face to be that person that those 10 or 12 men and women needed for the day. Okay? So he would show up early in the morning before the session started. He would go out and meditate. He would go out and pray. He might even go out and film a little Instagram reel or something to try to reach that one veteran that might be on the fence about coming out for the day.
Good.
And we had people that came and said, yeah, I saw Jeremy posting about this, so I decided to come on out. But what I saw, and what we didn't get to talk about in court and the jurors didn't get to hear, is, my opinion, he did that to dig deep, deep inside of him, to put on that face, to be prepared. So when the cameras came on, he was that person that those 10 or 12 or whoever showed up for the day needed for that period of time. So for 2 hours, 2.5 hours or whatever, he took every ounce of intestinal fortitude. His mental and emotional capacities were drained at the end of that day. And I never understood. I like having people around. You guys like having people around, obviously. Yeah. I would want people to stay at the farm. Hey, stay, hang out with the horses, feed them carrots, rub on them. There's no hurry. I'm going to mow grass later. I'm not in a rush. Right. Jeremy wanted people to leave because he had to stop and he had to let down.
Yeah.
And then once they left, we would sit down in a chair and I would watch his eyes roll around in his head. I would watch him twitch and shake. And I looked at his wife and I said, I just kind of gave her that look. And she goes, just give him a minute. And he was having little seizures because it took everything. He sacrificed everything mentally and emotionally to give back to people, to give back to his fellow men and women, veterans, and create this organization. And now he's sacrificed his finances, his good name, and he's not quitting. He's not going to quit.
And it sounds like you're not either. He seems to have a lot of people supporting him, and they don't say, "Look, man, this guy's a convicted felon. I'm out of here." Yeah. Right?
Over 120 people in the sentencing hearing. That is
more
moving.
In overflow rooms.
That is really moving.
Yeah, and we had 50 letters written on his behalf. I wrote one. They were written by colonels and high-ranking generals and pastors and different people that knew Jeremy. Southeast Christian Church is one of our main supporters. We are their veteran ministry. Veterans Club is a faith-based ministry that has lots of programs.
How does the faith-based portion of that?
What does it look like?
I was just saying. How does that manifest itself? I'll use that term as.
I think people would be interested to hear that. It's pretty straightforward, right?
I'm not going to talk about this very well, but Jeremy is a Christian man. He's well read. He studies a lot. He can pull scripture out at the right time for the right moment, whatever the conversation is, and he has that ability to do that because he reads and studies a lot, meditates a lot,
takes it to heart,
and it comes from his heart. Yeah, absolutely. And like it goes back to earlier, I said that I've for 6 or 7 years that I've known the man, I hear him say the same thing. So it comes out of the heart, doesn't come out of the mind.
Right.
So what he says comes from the heart, and I do believe that he's God led in this mission. He found a way to help himself, and he's given that back to the Lord to do this. He gives all the credit to the Lord for being able to provide what he can do, what Lord,
It's a
what
calling
God has
for
given.
him.
It's a calling, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he still continues to say those things and say those same things over and over again.
Well, you're talking to the right guy sitting next to me. Giving your
Oh,
quick
thanks.
background of
Oh,
theology.
I've got all my education is in theology and philosophy and some in therapy and including graduating from Harvard University and being on the board of a theological union here in outside of Louisville. So it's really touching for me to hear this. I'm stuck on this part where it sounds like these charges focus on the question of, well, if a doctor says that this man can't function for 40 hours a week in a job, and that he says he's doing 40 hours a week of what looks like a job that he may or may not have been paid for that time. Do you know, was he paid like an hourly kind of
It was all
wage?
volunteer, right? The
No,
40 hours he's
there was
volunteering.
No salary taken from Veterans Club Inc.
I just want to dwell on that point for a second. Yeah, think about that. That's incredible. So there's a saying, what is it? That if you're doing what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Right.
And doesn't that apply to Jeremy? It's not like complicated.
Yeah,
It's
and
very
it goes back to what when I first met him. I'm like, why don't you just stay home and collect your paycheck, play your video games? But then the more I thought about it, I'm thinking, okay, he's hurt and injured and disabled, and instead of just sitting home, thinking up conspiracy theories and drinking whiskey and playing video games, he's actually going out and doing something with that money. I mean, he spent that money on other people. The money that the government was paying for his disability, for him to be able to live and function in his home with his wife and daughters and son, he was actually giving that money out by volunteering his time and paying for whatever needed to be paid for to develop this nonprofit to bring it to where we were a couple years ago.
And it's something that while he enjoys it and it's rewarding and he understands that may be something that he has a really special gift for, it doesn't mean it was easy.
No.
In fact, some of those things that we're called to can be the hardest things ever. And it sounds like, after a day of doing that, giving of himself, pouring himself out, he needed time to just recover.
Absolutely.
Which really goes to speak to his character and what he was doing and how, I have to agree with you, off base this seems to be.
He found a way to help himself, and he found a way to we could bottle that with very little money and
Yeah.
share it with other people. I mean,
They're not paying you for the horses.
no, and
So everybody's volunteering their time here.
everybody's volunteering. I receive no money from Veterans Club. We receive grants that are specific to the equine program. We built an arena or rehabbed my arena so that we could create an all-weather surface so that when we had people out there, and back then we were doing twice a month veterans and then once a week or once a month people from the VOA or Salvation Army down here in Louisville from the homeless shelters.
Oh,
And they were
really?
coming out. So we were doing 3 events a month for the first 3 years. So 2 Saturdays and then a Friday of my time, but no compensation, and I don't need it. We had this money, and Jeremy's like, we need to spend this money because they'll take the grant back. It's specific to our equine program. You're the equine program. I said, well, I'm going to have fence because I have horses. I'm going to have a barn. I'm going to have hay because
Yep.
I have horses. I'm going to do all this stuff because it's already my responsibility. So then we came up with, let's do the arena. So that just improved the property, and it just improved my relationship with them. And then me not just going to run out on them when we do this, to continue the partnership, to continue to grow the program. I want this to be a legacy. I want this to be something that I'm known for, that I can teach other people what we're doing. It's so simple what we're doing. The hardest thing I have to do is weed eat the farm, because Jeremy would always have the news media out there, and the first thing that the guys with the cameras would do is get down by the grass. I have the best screen in the grass in the world, thanks to Kelly Robeloff and some of our fraternity brothers.
There you go.
But they would film the fence, and if I saw the grass doing this under the fence where I didn't weed eat, my ADHD and OCD would be off the charts at 11 o'clock news. So that was the hardest thing I had to do. The horses did the rest. we didn't have to do any. Sometimes we don't have to do anything with the folks
Hmm.
that come out. Is just let them be with the horse. That helps them more than anything sometimes.
Quiet.
But then we can talk about responsibilities for the human, responsibilities for the horse, and we can do a little teaching. We're not trying to make horsemen out of them, but we teach a little horsemanship, and then that
Such as
such as
what are three tips to be a good horseman
um,
that you could think of? I'll put you on the spot.
responsibility. So
Okay.
think like a horse.
Well, that shouldn't be hard for me.
Yeah.
Got that down.
So
Next one.
That's my responsibility as a good horseman.
I'm
is to-
eating like
is
one.
to
so-
think like a horse, to use the natural power of focus,
Can you describe what that in a little more detail?
the natural power of focus.
Mm,
Okay,
I just love those words.
well. So for me, the natural power of focus is when I show up at the barn, I need to be present and in the moment, because horses live in the moment. And a moment, by my definition, is about a fourth of a second, so it's pretty quick, and that's where horses live.
Yeah.
Okay, we live in minutes and
Yeah.
time. Okay, we lose track of time. Horses, they're always aware. They're so sensitive to time, and then to not act like a predator, act like a partner. Okay, so and I want my horse to act like a partner, not a prey animal. And then he has the other responsibilities are easy for him, but that's what makes a good horseman. And we can use those as tools to teach people, because, like I said earlier, these folks, these men and women, were leaders at some point in the military, but now they've come back and they don't have that purpose anymore. So they're kind of lost in that leadership role. They don't know where to go sometimes. And simply, I can teach them how to handle a rope, how to take a big breath in and stand up straight and march and look and have focus on a plan and a distance and a destination. And then the horse changes. I get the luxury of standing there watching somebody play with a horse, and if they're looking to the ground and they're sad, then the horse is just eating grass and doing whatever, because there's no leadership there. The leadership is 100% for the horse, because he's in charge, because the person is not taking over. So we can just simply change.
So
how
they
hold it.
rise to the occasion.
The horse does?
Yes.
Yeah. They're going to mirror, and you hear that a lot. And I don't really believe that horses mirror us, but they respond to our mental and emotional and physical.
Do you think, like a dog, are they drawn to human interaction?
No.
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 Okay.
We want to cause curiosity with horses. You know, everything I do. If I had a little training session with my horse tonight, my goal is tomorrow morning when I go to the barn that he greets me with a smile.
Oh,
Okay, that he comes to me because he's curious.
Yeah.
He's like, what's this guy got on the store today? Yesterday was kind of interesting.
So it's kind of like with a child. You know, I often said that
Yeah.
that events, if you treat adults like children and children like adults, they work well. And they said, for instance,
I
I
love
said,
that.
yeah, I said if I was doing an event for kids to try to make them, because I did a lot of, you know, I was in the advertising business for 25 years. We did a lot of special events. If you treat kids like an adult, so not that we would have liquor in, here's an example, but a cocktail party for kids, or sitting at, you know, they wanted to be adult. The adults, I said, look, we're going to climb through these caves. You're going to crawl in, and they're cardboard boxes, but we're going to crawl into the cave party. Oh, they couldn't wait to get on their hands and knees and crawl into the party. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you know, Picasso said that artists are people who master their craft when young, and when grow old, paint like children who know nothing. And I think that's what people strive to do. They want, I mean, you hearken back to a simpler time when you're a child and act like a child.
When
So
prompted
anyway,
to. Yeah, when prompted to.
Yeah, when prompted. So anyway,
Yeah.
I think,
And you have a space and environment to do that, which is what you provide, Scott.
he does.
And that goes back to the therapy part about what I talked about earlier about my first involvement with the Pirelli Foundation and therapeutic horses, and them developing behavioral issues and displaced behaviors and things like that, because they were just used as tools. Along with being a kid, you know, the best people with horses are kids under 13.
There you go.
Okay, when you turn 13, you become a practicing adult.
Right.
All right. So now we're having adults out there that have some issue, mental and emotional or whatever, some physical issues because of their service in the military. And we just play with horses. We don't work horses. We don't use them as tools. And then the horses fill in the blanks. And a lot of times I don't have to do anything but just fix up how somebody's holding a rope and teach them to play.
What do you need? What can people do? How could they participate if they said, wow, that sounds really interesting? How could they?
Well, we always need volunteers.
To do what?
A lot of different things, I
I'm
imagine.
just trying
Yeah.
to get a list.
Right. Yeah.
Things that.
we,
What,
we,
what could they hope to do?
the biggest things we need are sponsorships for. So here's how a typical day goes at the farm. We start at 10 o'clock. We start with a meet and greet. We meet who everybody that shows up, who they are, what their service was, what they're currently doing, where they live, etc. And then I talk a little bit about safety and the horses, maybe do a little demo, whatever I'm feeling that day, and then maybe a little bit of idea of where I want the day to go. If I'm thinking about being in the moment, being present, or if I'm thinking about responsibilities or whatever, that's my lesson for the day. And then we groom horses, and then we eat lunch. So that's where people can help. Is we have some sponsors that provide Chick-fil-A. We have sometimes we have pizza. Sometimes we just order good sandwiches and have it catered in. We could have people fix meals and that kind of things. That's what we need. I don't need anything at the farm. Veterans Club doesn't need anything to host these things, but the food thing is
to help be a host.
Yeah, to help be a host. We need somebody
Wow.
to come be the host. That's a good way for people to volunteer. They absolutely could come out and volunteer at the farm to help me work around the farm, but I take care of most things anyway. So that's hard for me to turn loose of. Just my personality is to
Yeah.
let 10 people show up and say we're going to fix fence or whatever. But we've done that,
And how does a veteran sign up? How do you get a
Veterans need to become members on the Facebook page, the Veterans Club Facebook page, the Veterans Club private page, and then get on the email list because Corey's great at sending out all the activities that Veterans Club has planned.
And Corey
Bolin is our Chief Operating Officer
okay.
for Veterans Club. He's the only paid employee of Veterans Club. There's never been any other employees except for Corey. There were other employees because there were other people that had Corey's role before Corey has the role he has currently today.
Nicely.
Okay, so there was other employees, but there was only a single at one time employee for the organization because it's such a small budget. We're not some big hundreds of millions of dollar nonprofit that can have 50 employees. So,
But you would accept donations if there was someone that said, "This is something I want to be a part of."
absolutely, and we get that, and most recently, there's an organization or a company that's based out of Louisville. Their corporate headquarters is here, called Tri-Arrows Aluminum. It's a big aluminum manufacturer and recycling company.
Oh, right.
And they had an employee giving campaign back in the spring, and Corey went and presented and showed some videos. The CEO happened to be there, and he got up and he said, "I want everybody to participate in this." They had and they're not only here in Louisville, they're in other countries, and they had 100% employee participation, which I think on a giving campaign like that is unheard of.
Wow.
They raised and gave us a check for over $150,000.
Wow.
It's the largest single donation we've had to date as an organization. And then we hosted them at the farm.
Can you share a little bit about how those monies are used in the program, just so people can understand?
Yeah. So grant monies are specific to whatever the grant we applied for. Samtech gave us a grant a couple years ago we applied for that was specific to the equine program. I think we had received another grant or donation from a local bank here for an equine program, and that went to our partner in Kentucky Equine Humane. I failed to talk about them. I talked about the Paris farm, but the Kentucky Humane Society has their equine program or equine rescue in Simpsonville at the property donated by Patty Swope's the Swope Foundation, I believe.
Wow.
And we built an arena out there because our Women Warrior program is held out there. So we used part of that grant money to build a facility or improve their facility at the Kentucky Equine Humane. And again, Scott and Michelle, at our private farm, we don't need. Okay, we would like to improve it, and we want to see this program be perpetuate.
And that's you and your wife you're talking to.
Yeah, my wife and I, and
Yes.
we want to see it grow. We want to do more. I want to teach more, and if that comes in way of financial support for me to learn more, to grow the program, then that's great. But right now we're simple. I mean,
And-
hosts for our functions, hosts for our gun range. We offer gun range out at Next Level. We go out there and we let veterans come out, or Next Level lets veterans come out for free for 2 hours, and we feed them and have a little private meeting room, and then they can go to the gun range for 2 hours at their leisure. That's how people can help, is sponsor those meals, pay for those things, so that doesn't come out of the general fund.
So here's what we're going to ask people to do
Okay.
to watch this show, though, and that's share the show.
Yes, please.
We need
Yeah.
people to hear this. And, I ran an advertising agency for 25 years. I said that, but so I retired last December, and I'm like, what am I going to do with my time? And this guy and I talked about it and said, we should have a format, a platform, just to talk about what people are into. That I said, life's passions is what it says on the sign.
Right.
But whatever that may be, some people like football, some people do art, some people do cars. We're in a band together. It's been a blast, hasn't
Yeah.
it, to be able to do that.
Yes. And
and
to
so-
do this. Talk
Yes,
with
and to
people
do
that are
this.
passionate about what they're passionate about and why.
But we need a little help. And so we want you to subscribe. We want you to
Mash the like button.
Yeah,
And share the link.
this.
Yeah.
Honestly, because we can't do it on our own. We
Yeah.
cannot make this grow, so that we can do more of this, which is tell the public what's going on,
Yeah.
and what the news can't do. The news is not going to dive into this. Although you did say that
We may have the news looking into it, an investigative reporter, and then also in my conversation with him, he thought of two other angles or stories that he would like to do that may or may not be related to an investigative report.
but news is news, isn't it?
But my opinion is, Spencer County has a huge veteran population. I would be willing to bet that there are probably no more than a half dozen veterans that live in Spencer County that know that we do this therapy program with horses in Spencer County.
All right. So if you live in Spencer County,
Yeah. Okay.
which is
Uh,
Taylorsville,
Yeah. We were, Jeremy was picked as one of 4 or 5 veterans one year to show what he was doing post-service. And we were on the History Channel. The History Channel spent 10 hours at my farm, at our farm,
excellent.
filming the horses and veterans playing with the horses. And because of that, we had people come up from Tennessee that saw it on the History Channel to come up to meet our horses and play with our horses for the day. So there's less than 1/10 of 1% maybe of the population that knows what has happened to one of our combat veterans and how the federal government has attacked him and tried to take away what he's trying to give to other veterans.
Mention his
himself.
name again, and because this is part
Yeah.
2, we talked about this in detail
In
on
part
the
one.
first one. But his name and how to find out more information about it.
Jeremy Harrell, and Veterans Club Inc.org is the website, and you can Google Veterans Club and it will come up with Jeremy Harrell almost immediately. Top searches, and Veterans Club are the top searches if you just search Veterans Club.
And you talked in the first segment about that this perhaps is at the White House level at this point. So, again, talk about what you're asking that to happen. You never know who you're talking to.
Never know who
You
you're
never
talking
know
to.
who's going to
Yeah.
see this.
Yeah.
So write your congressman, write your legislators, your local, state, and federal legislators, and let them know about this. You never know who
And if you
might-
know Donald Trump, pick up the phone.
pick up the phone and call Donald Trump if you know him. He's a busy man, but we feel with good confidence from people telling us in Washington that this is in the White House.
He seems to like common sense. This would make common sense.
This
to
would
me.
be a great thing for him. I could see Jeremy being in the White
Oh.
House, and I could see him and Trump standing there talking about this, and Jeremy getting that platform and getting it and being able to talk more about his passion and what he's been in his calling to serve his fellow veterans.
You let us know if we can make that happen. Be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we'd like to see Jeremy at a State of the Union address, sitting in the balcony there, getting introduced to the nation
Scott, we
as a free
appreciate
man.
a lot
Yes,
of
we-
people believing that's going to happen.
how fast time flies.
Yes,
So
sir.
we just
Yes.
finished our second segment, and we're glad you're here, and we're glad that you have the passion and took the time to come
Thank you.
here and explain the story. I wish everybody would be that involved in the community. It makes
and
things.
Scott has nothing to gain from doing this other
And
than
nor do
knowing
we.
that he's stood up for something that he firmly believes is the right side of a difficult situation and a misunderstanding.
I've had the privilege to learn from one of the best in the horse industry, to learn how to speak horse and to get along with horses and not be frustrated, not be fearful, to be able to find the funds to continue to grow and be with my horses. And it
Here's
just
what he
makes
does.
sense to give back.
Here's what he
And share
doesn't
it.
want me to do.
Yeah.
He doesn't want me to do this. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Come
Scott.
see
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.